Hey, what's up, everybody? You know, I've done about, we've done 5 or 6 of these so far, and each time we do these, we learn a little bit more about, not only about who we're working with, but I learn a lot about the behind the scenes kind of thing. So as I look around and our guest here looks around, we have lights and we have cameras and we have Sabrina in the back, running the show. And every single time we start, there's always a trigger point, and she'll say, hey, take it away and go, and I'll sit up. Oh, okay. Me sitting up, did that change? Ah, damn it. Did I unfocus? Gosh, dang it.
That's all right.
Okay. Yep, I'm all right. And every time I sit up, it unfocuses the cameras. Somehow the light changes and like the sun goes down and people walk in at every single time. And so we've started this a few times now, and I guess it'll never fail as our guests come in. But we've done some interviews on some bodybuilders and some great athletes. And some ambassadors and great customers of ours. And if you've been paying attention to our stories on Instagram and on Facebook, we started a segment where we just want people to share their fitness journeys and their goals, their ambitions, and what's going on, what makes them want to be customers in here. And a few people have jumped on. One person who's jumped on has been a great customer for years, and his name is Justin Morrow. So thanks for coming in, Justin. I appreciate it. So I guess let's start with, why did you respond to the story? So why did you choose to come and sit down here?
Well, I mean, like you mentioned, I've been coming here for supplements. The majority. I mean, I started, I think it was almost back when it was still Complete Nutrition, and then as it became Stewart Nutrition, it just came more and more, and you offered some really great advice, so that's what kept me coming back.
Cool.
I responded mostly to the story because, I mean, not a lot of people, or at least everyone should know about you guys, and if I can help you guys do that, then
yeah, that's awesome, and we appreciate you doing that. And so far the feedback has been great. There's already been half a dozen people that want to jump in and reschedule them, and so if anybody wants to do that, by all means, jump on there and respond, and we'll get back to you guys. So first time you came in, it wasn't just Complete Nutrition. I think we were across the street, weren't we? Or was it here? Did you come in when we were here? Were we by Buffalo Wild Wings?
It was over by Buffalo.
So that was over 5 years ago. How old are you?
22.
Well, yeah. You were probably 16, 17 years old then. So when did you get into fitness?
I guess I started my first foray, like you said, about 16, 17. That's when I had to convince my mom to, I was like, oh, we can get this protein powder. And I distinctly remember a conversation with my friend saying, I want to stay natural.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Protein, creatine, and that's mom's worst enemy.
Oh, yeah. It's like, no, I don't want you putting those things into your body. And I was like, it's just protein.
Food? Dehydrated milk?
Exactly. And so I remember getting that and coming in there, and I'd say it was more sporadic. I mean, as a 15, 16-year-old, you're competing with school and sports and other hobbies and all that kind of stuff. But I guess where I really started doing it consistently was about my senior year, and then I had a little bit of a break. I lived in Ohio for a little over a year. I was serving a church mission, and then once I got back, I really, really did it consistently, and I'm going on, I want to say, my second year in January.
Cool. Well, yeah, 'cause in relation, you're huge. Like you've grown a lot.
Yeah, it's been an uphill battle.
Yeah, I've seen you from small to an XL, I think, in the last 5 to 6 years. Yeah. You know what's funny is I remember distinctly as well, I was like 15, 16 years old, and someone who I haven't seen or heard from in years, so if you see this, Bailey Tubbs, you're the guy. I was in Filer, and I was about that age. I must have been 16 because I think he was 15. And we got done with weights class, and when he got done, I walked in, and he was taking some creatine, scuba creatine. That was as close to steroids as the whole locker room's ever seen. People are whispering behind his back and like talking shit about him taking steroids and stuff. And it was creatine, but that's but that's the perspective that mothers get, I think, you know, and so I have a conversation probably once a week with somebody's mom, and I can always tell a 16-year-old kid will walk in and their mother walks right behind them, and I know they're in for protein and creatine without a shred of doubt. And I also know that I'm going to get a grilling from mom. Like, tell me the truth about this stuff. What is it? I've heard that, you know, the creatine is bad for you. I heard it's kidney failure. And it's like, could be steroid. Yes.
All the things.
And so, and it is actually really hard for me as like the person selling it to them, saying, no, it's the most studied, proven product.
Because, I mean, they look at you and they see, oh, yeah, well, he's just trying to push a product on my innocent 16, 17-year-old. Yeah, absolutely.
Every time. And so it takes some time. And so did you go in with your mom when you first came in?
Yes, I did.
So I had that conversation with your mom, right?
100%. Not even a doubt in my mind. There's still things where I'll mention that I'm taking like pre-workout or something, and she's like, that's awful for you. And I'm like, how? I was like caffeine, there's how many studies that shows that it helps, muscle strength long term. Nitrates, are good for your heart health and, numerous other things. And she's like, well, it's bad. And I'm like, I don't.
Okay. That and that's usually the people like sipping their third Starbucks for the day.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
And I'm not saying your mom does that,
well,
but
I agree with you.
How that works. Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously she lets you continue, and she said yes to the supplements in the beginning. And so, what are you taking now? Because you're still doing protein. You just came in for a pre-workout last week. What are you taking? Anything else?
I'd say probably my top 3 would be like some sort of pre-workout, just because as much as people would not believe, I'm not very much a morning person, so it kind of yanks me up out in the mornings. And then I guess part of that is because it's already got creatine and ashwagandha in it, which ashwagandha is fairly new, so I'm like, okay. And then it was already included in the pre-workout, like that's what was part of it. So I was like, I don't have to remember to take how many scoops of whatever in the morning, which is nice. And then probably protein and creatine, which is also in the pre-workout. So those I'd say that's probably my 3.
And 4. that's Black Market Labs, their bulk.
Yes.
And we went through. I was talking to somebody yesterday about that one, and it has a lot more of it's definitely a performance type.
Oh yeah.
Type pre-workout, and it has kind of everything. Ashwagandha, ashwagandha isn't super new. Ashwagandha is not new at all.
Well, at least the hype of it.
The hype is really new. It was actually originally in nootropics, more for brain function, and then all of a sudden the hormone support come rising in, and now it's definitely used more of the hormone support than it is the mental focus, but definitely.
Well, like even with like nootropics and stuff, because I've came in and got adrenaline and other stuff. And the funny thing is, I've almost I'll like do it before I do homework or do a test or something. And I'm glad that like nootropics are finally getting the like attention they deserve. Because I feel like for the longest time, people are like, oh yeah, we'll just keep pumping you full of caffeine. And there's how many other things with that.
Yeah, right. It doesn't. Brain function doesn't, or focus doesn't have to mean stimulant.
Exactly.
But that's a whole nother thing. And how much stimulant people intake is insane, and I'm one of them. On top of it. So you were 15 or 16 years old. You jumped in and and you work out at. Where do you work out at?
So I work out at, I guess, what used to be the YMCA.
We'll check those microphones to see how good they are. But hey, more behind the scenes stuff. Sabrina's back there trying to fix the sun issue that I keep talking about. So she grabs this poster and puts it up that's framed. And she's been trying to fix this the whole time, and it's
right there.
And it's a circus back here, but it's actually really funny.
Yeah.
I wish we had an extra camera. I'm gonna bust out my phone here in a second and record her.
Yeah.
Cool. So back to what you were saying.
So I work out at what used to be the YMCA. I think now they call it the East Street Community Center.
Is that what it is?
That's the name that they went with. Because I even went there. I used to work over at Planet Fitness, but I need a place that I can squat, bench, deadlift, and so that's why I've had that membership over there for as long as I have. Pretty solid equipment, decent hours, and pretty much everything I need.
But East Street Community what? Fitness?
Community Center.
Community Center. Okay. Does that mean they're adding stuff? Like
I mean, like I said, they recently partnered with the United Way, so I mean, they're going to be doing a remodel, and the United Way is going to be helping a lot with like the after-school programs as well as the childcare there. So what exactly that winds up being in the future, I don't know, and I don't think they know, at least at this point.
Okay, so it sounds like they're trying to keep it as YMCA as possible and just not pay for the name or have the funding from them.
From what I understood is after everything went down with the YMCA, the like YMCA or whatever board of directors that they had to consult with was like, okay, well, we can't let this happen, so everything was just super stringent. And so it's almost like they just kind of retracted, and whereas before they'd be like, oh yeah, we can offer this, we can offer that. It was like, no, these make us money, and this is what we are and what we need to be, and we're sticking to it. Even though that's probably why they got rid of like the swimming pool. Is it back? Is the swimming pool? It's back.
Oh, okay.
And I mean that's at least what I heard a lot of it. I mean, I'm probably not in as deep as some of the other people that, for example, work there or whatever, but that's just the information that I have available.
Right. Do you remember the McDonald's on Addison and Hayburn?
Yes.
One?
Yep.
Remember the old one, and they had that play place? I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
So that was Bill Kyle donated that playground to the YMCA, and it never. And then when all of that embezzling stuff went down, I know that obviously that playground never got put in there. But what's funny though is that playground is in pieces about a half mile from my house, south of town.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's sitting in a field in pieces.
Just
still.
God.
Yeah. What, 10 years later? It's still, and the whole thing's sitting there, like just in pieces. Yeah. I want to go put it in my backyard.
Hey,
how
cool
cool would that be?
You open up some childcare, be all like, it's a piece of historic Twin Falls.
Yes, it is. I still have like the videos of when I was driving down the street and I was filming as they were like taking the cranes and unhooking everything. It was a sad day.
Well, that's almost how I feel. You ever there's a park down on kind of Filer? It's by like Sawtooth. I used to call it Candy Cane. I don't know what it's
I think so.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember when I was driving by and they were taking out the trees in the playground, and I'm like, what's wrong with the playground? Like,
heartbreaking. Yeah.
I was like, okay, it makes sense to move the bathrooms up just so they're not like 8 miles away from the playground, but I was just like, man, this is pieces of childhood gone.
Yeah, it is. I know. Well, hopefully they that gets renovated and up and going, because it was. I mean, that competed with Gold's Gym forever. Yeah. The YMCA did, and then it kind of fell apart. So.
Yeah.
So your fitness, do you have one, or are you just doing it for the lifestyle?
So I mean, as much as a goal, like fitness is something that I've been interested. Even when I was taking a break, I still found it important to be in shape and be able to do things. And I guess now it's more of an aesthetics point where, like I said, if it gets down to the point where I feel like I either have the drive or the ability to compete, then I will. But as of right now, doing school and whatever, it's not something that's necessarily on like my number 1 or number 2 priority list.
Yeah. And 22 would be a good number for that. And I think you've had enough years of experience. My money's on you will. I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Enough people. What's funny is you get big enough, and then people, are you doing a show?
Yeah.
I'm sure you get that a lot, right? And now we'll go so much that finally you go, screw it, I'm gonna
exactly. It's like, well, why not? And then in most cases, it's like, oh wow. And then they ask how you got there, and then it just kind of the ball starts rolling.
Mm-hmm. And then you catch a bug, you do a show, and you get, fifth out of 8 people, and you're like, okay, well, I've got to beat that.
I've got to beat
next
fifth
year,
and fourth
whatever,
and third until you finally win a show, and
then you're Luigi and Manny in here talking about how they're getting the pro cards. So it is. It's funny how that works. Clearly, it's the reason why I haven't done a show yet. I just don't want to get into the.
You'd be too good for him.
I'd be I just get into it way too much. Mm-hmm. Then I had Doritos for breakfast this morning. So
breakfast of champions,
whatever. Yeah. So do you have certifications then?
Yeah. So I'm actually certified through NASM, which is I think it's the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Mm-hmm. That's one of the more like common training certifications.
Common, but the most prestigious though, too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not like you just took a 15-minute course on the internet and said, all right, I'm out.
Right.
I mean, you actually have to go through like modules, and I want to say if you were to pay for it like sticker price, which most people like rarely do, they priced it at like $750, and that's their self-study program, which is really all you need. They do like student discounts and stuff, and mine ran me, I think, just around 400 or like 420 something.
Okay.
So I mean,
I think more people pay $700-800 than you think.
Well, it's because the way they market it, and a lot of
They offer discounts pretty quick and up front? Or?
Well, I'm saying the way they market it is they say, oh, because it's such a like well and universally recognized standard, you're most likely guaranteed a job if you interview well, and there's other things. But they say, okay, well, it's a hard test, and so they say, we're going to offer somebody that's going to go over like study guides with you or quiz videos, and you have a person you can ask questions to, and that bumps up the price. Versus their stealth study thing, where it's like, okay, you have the material, you have the quiz modules, and you can take the practice quizzes and stuff as much as you want, but you don't have that like one-on-one.
So they have
person.
add-ons?
Yeah.
They have like a base price, and then they have just add-on for the same certification?
Yeah. Huh. And so, you could even pay upwards of $1,000 if you really wanted to.
I bet.
It's like, okay, you want the physical textbook, and you have 24/7 coaching support and all this stuff. And I understand why NASM does a little bit of that, at least from a business perspective.
But you don't need it?
No.
Yeah,
In fact, I think in relativity, like a lot of the stuff, even like on the test, there's a lot of good material in there. But to anybody that's looking at taking the NASM test, I would say don't waste time going over stuff that's not going to be either on the test or even really like applicable. Like I think I remember.
How do you know what's going to be on it? Like, how do you know what's going to be on the test?
If you think about it, you just think of like what like falls in the scope of a personal trainer. I want to say in like some of the chapters and stuff, they go over things like the endocrine system, which on a general level is important, but in most cases, you're not going to have something that's so specific in a client that isn't going to be medically documented.
Gotcha. So it's good to have the information, but it's pretty obvious. They're not going to ask
by the time that this becomes important, it would already be either diagnosed by a medical professional, or you would send them that way to begin with. That wouldn't be within your scope anyway.
Gotcha. So do you train?
Yeah, I train clients in my off hours. I work as a physical therapy aide, and so even when I'm not either exercising or supervising exercising, I'm still supervising exercising.
Yeah.
Most of the clients I do are just general strength and conditioning. Is
that weight loss? You do weight loss stuff, or are you getting them familiar with gym life?
From coming from Planet Fitness, a lot of people a lot of people experience being intimidation by people at the gym and etc. And so a lot of it is just getting them comfortable with like even knowing a few exercises.
Yeah.
Walking in and say, okay, I have this row of equipment. What do I use, and how do I structure that? So I help them with that. Most anybody that I know that's looking for like weight loss specifically, I usually send them on to Vanessa Toulson and Amanda Hansen over at the Diet Doc.
Okay.
From like you mentioned at the beginning, how I went from like, I think I was like 165, 170 pounds, to now I'm about over 210, and that's been, I want to say 98% going and getting my macros set up.
Awesome. Okay, so the food part of it. The
Yes.
food part is what's important for this. Gotcha. So, if somebody, what's your Instagram handle?
It's Bro and a Barbell. Bro and a Barbell.
Bro and a Barbell. Mm-hmm. I think you can throw that up there, can't you? Okay. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to Justin and get some training advice and work with Justin and have him help. I don't know if you'd say coach or personal train, but reach out to him. Just ask him. Tell him we sent you. Yeah. He'll give you a discount.
yeah, for real.
Awesome. Yeah. So do you keep track of your like number of clients, or is it they just kind of come and go? Like how many do you have, do you think?
Well, a lot of it depends on what they're looking for. There's some people that they're like, oh, I just need a couple sessions, kind of look at what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a few months. I just want to know if there's any pointers. And a lot of that's just a general consult. But I'd say continuous clients, I have anywhere from probably about 10 to 15, just cool. That I'll supervise probably about a couple times a month. If they have questions and stuff, they can text me and just be like, hey, I noticed that, today I wasn't feeling so hot, or for whatever reason, this feels heavier than it should, or, oh, I'm killing it. This is working great. How do I progress past this?
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to write you tonight.
Okay.
You're going to answer my questions.
You sit there and be all like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, step one is how do I get off the couch usually. And you know what's funny though is that's a lot of people's questions usually.
Oh, I believe it.
You know, I mean, there's a reason why like the Tim Ferrisses and the Ed Milet's and the Gary Vaynerchuk's and the David Goggins. Like, there's a reason why those guys exist for these motivational speaking, because sometimes it's just hard to get off the couch sometimes, for sure. You know, and especially when you don't know what you're doing in the gym.
Yep.
So like going to Planet Fitness, like, can you see the people from like Planet Fitness to this E Street place? Like, can you see whether it's demographic, gender, and even like just demeanor in general, like versus, you know, people walking in there versus E Street? What I mean by that is like Planet Fitness is kind of known for like, you know, everybody's welcome. Exactly. So it's the first time gym goers. It's the people that don't want to feel intimidated. Can you see the difference between those two places, or is it still a pretty good mix?
I'd say there'll be a pretty good mix at most fitness centers, depending. I mean, obviously you're going to have a little bit of a skew to whether it's, you know, Planet Fitness goals, you know, E Street towards a certain demographic. I'd say E Street and Planet Fitness have a little bit more in common than you would think, especially when it comes to a lot of like the older populations that, you know, the YMCA was their bread and butter before, you know, places like Planet Fitness existed.
Yeah.
And so that population is the same, but as far as like mindset, you have, I'd probably say that there's three groups that are most common in most gyms across just America, for example. You have whether it's high school kids or you know people like we talked about in the beginning, they're just barely getting into, you know, exercising, whether that's cardio, working out, whatever. And so a lot of times they're with their friends, are like, oh, I saw this on, let's say, Instagram or YouTube or whatever, let's do this workout. You have older populations where, at least that I see when in the physical therapy clinic, that are saying, okay, I'm starting to age and I need to work on some things, you know, to be able to age well and be able to stay independent. And then the middle group is usually, I want to say, about 30s to 40s. And a lot of it is almost like a social thing. Like they'll go with somebody and, you know, you start to have gym friends.
Yeah.
And because you have those friends that, oh, hey, you know, we're going golfing this weekend or something. Which that's not to say that it's bad, but it's a little bit different than the other two groups.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I noticed that because, I went to Gold's forever, and then I've stopped in a Planet Fitness a few times, and it's, you can tell the atmosphere is very different. You know, and that's not to say one's better than the other. You can just tell just how different they are, and people talk about, you know, the sauna versus the tanning beds and the free weights versus the hydro bed machines, and, you know, and the pros and cons. But hey, for the record, Family Boxing has all of those.
And a zero gravity treadmill.
And a zero gravity treadmill.
Ooh, like an air runner?
Is that? I think that's what they're called.
Is it the? Was it the one
you
where
you create that? It's curved and you create it. Yeah. You tried one?
They had one at the college, and I ran my fastest mile ever as a warm up, and that killed me. Because when I start to get tired, I'll lean my chest forward, but when you do that on like a gravity runner, it makes it go faster.
Yeah, right.
So I did that and I got done.
Stop this thing!
I got off and I was like, trying not to die on that.
Yeah. I watched Murad. Murad did one. He's a well-known boxer over there, and he was kind of showing him how to do it. And didn't he do it on our live? Yeah, and even he was huffing.
So going back to Family Boxing, the funny thing is the diet doc's actually right above you guys.
Yeah, she is. Huh.
And so, I mean, I've seen you guys, but I mean, I guess I haven't really stopped in, like, looked at the facility and stuff. And I mean, if I'm over there anyway.
Yeah, you should. Jason and Kendra are always over there, and it's always open to sometime. I think you have to have a key code, but somebody's always there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you go check it out. It's actually really cool. There's can't say a whole lot, but there's bigger plans.
Well, yeah, and that's,
so they shouldn't be there for a whole lot longer. So. Okay. Moving on up.
Oh yeah.
So
bigger and better dreams.
Cool. But yeah, you should check it out too. But I think there's a lot of great gyms. I heard there's another one coming in a few months. So I'm glad that we're getting some diversity in the gym world around here.
Like I feel like a lot of what drives the gyms is you get, you know, somebody who says, you know what, I'm going to be a better gym than this thing or this whatever. That's why, like Burley, for example, has like 4 or 5 really, really solid gyms, and Twin kind of just had Golds in any time, and just recently Planet Fitness that.
Yeah, it was Gold's in the Y and Anytime that's it.
Yeah.
And then Planet Fitness came, and then Family Boxing is getting up there, and Crossway is around here.
Oh yeah, and then
stuff.
was it the Pack?
So the Pack is doing their thing, and but I don't. I know so many people that talked about how they're going to build a gym and start a gym, and people don't understand it. I mean,
There's
that
a
takes
lot
damn near $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to go on $73 in a dream, and it's just it doesn't work out, and people lose a lot of money because they get halfway into it and realize they can't do that.
Well, I mean, that's why people have gym memberships instead of home gyms, because they look at what it costs to even set up a fairly bare bones, home gym, and they say, holy
think about
cow.
commercializing that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's insane, and people want, when it was just these three main gyms, people are always talking about how they want, I'm going to start a gym and I'm going to find investors. I'm like, who the hell do you know that's going to,
Who has that type of money to burn?
Yeah, right, and trust you. Like
Exactly.
yeah, it's a hard gig, and the overhead. I figured once you bought the equipment, it would be done. But I guess the overhead on there and the upkeep and just all the updated technology, and if you want, how big your staff is and running all the back end stuff is, I guess, pretty insane too.
Well, that's why a lot of these 24-hour fitnesses are popping up more and more, just because they have a lot lower overhead than somewhere like a commercial gym where you have people at the front desk and whatever. Because a lot of them, at least format-wise, you have your equipment, you have somebody like some sort of manager that's there at certain hours, and then a lot of it's just cameras and door keys.
Yeah.
And so that helps keep your costs low, but that still doesn't take into account the price of equipment, like you said, updated things, other amenities, and so on.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing how much everything costs these days.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, right on. Well, cool. Well, I hope people reach out to you. I know that you've done this for a really long time now, considering you're only 22 years old, and you know a lot. Usually, when you come in here, it's you used to be filled with questions, and now you usually say, "I need this with this stuff in it," because you seem to already know, which makes my job pretty damn easy. So I appreciate that too. So, but I do appreciate you coming in, and if you guys want to share your journey like Justin is currently doing, and you will see him at the new E Street Community Fitness Action Program Center.
Yeah.
Make sure you stop by and say hi, say you saw this video. But I do appreciate you coming, and I'll probably see you next week for another tub of protein.
Probably.
All right, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. I want Justin to answer the question, because I'm going to cut it and
Yes.
up with it. And maybe you want to ask him, I don't know, what advice would he give to somebody just starting?
Do you want to cut it? Do you want to ask him and cut it, or do you want me to ask him?
Go ahead.
Okay.
For the sake of him talking to someone versus
Gotcha.
audibly talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone just starting?
Yeah. Someone just starting.
Okay. Well, let's plug it into the Planet Fitness side of that. Like when I was asking about Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
So we'll try to plug it into that.
Okay. That sounds
So, okay. Awesome. Are you just anytime?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so somebody walks in, you're walking out of Planet Fitness. Okay, you were an employee at Planet Fitness. You're walking out, somebody brand new is walking in, and they see you with a shirt on, and they stop you and they say, "Hey, sir, I'm just walking in. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about gym, nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, anything. What's your advice that you would give me? What would you tell them?"
I mean, a lot of that changes depending on their goals, but I guess just bare bones advice is I'd focus on consistency over intensity. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure you'd see this all the time with, people that start like a New Year's resolution and then get burnt out by the time March rolls around. It's because they go into the gym and they say, you know what, I'm going to destroy my entire body for 3 hours. And then by the time that all sets in, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel awful, which you do. And to put it this way, 2 3-hour workouts in a week versus about an hour-ish for 5 days, you're going to get more out of that mentally, physically, and it'll be easier to stick to than those, super intense training sessions.
Yeah.
And over time is pretty much your greatest asset. And I mean, I know you talked about getting up off the couch, and that's why you have these, motivational stuff, but after a while, it just becomes a part of like, oh, I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to think about it. And that's where I think, like at first you need some motivation to kind of get the ball rolling. But then once it becomes just, you know, part of what you do, then that's a lot easier because you go to the gym. That's just what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's there's always that advice about like, you know, it's not whether you go to the gym, it's what did you do when you were there, and that, you know, even the janitor at the gym is going to the gym every day versus checking the box. I am much more what seems to be on your side. Go check the damn box. Go check the box. Who cares if you went there for 15 minutes, warmed up, walked on an incline on the treadmill for 15 minutes at 3, and you took a selfie and went home?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes checking the box to me is okay.
Yeah.
Just go do it. You know.
Well, like there's a couple of videos or like audio clips I listen to from like a couple podcasts that are like stitched together, and one of them's from like the Jocko podcast, and one of them's from like, I think they're both from a Jocko podcast, because he's sitting there and he's like, you know, some people, you know, they look at a mountain and say, oh man, it's going to be rough going up there. I'm going to get tired at this point. I'm going to do this or whatever. It's like other people just start up the mountain. He's like, and that's what I'd recommend you do, because, you know, thinking about what it's going to do isn't going to make that any better or worse. And then there's another one where, what was it? Where he talks about, it's like, you know, people, oh, I don't want to just go through the motions. They have that quality mindset, and they say, well, I go through the motions, even if it's just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And like you said, check the box, and whether you did it or not, that's better than you would be if you were sitting home thinking about how, oh man, I can't even check the box today.
Yeah. Well, because you keep the ball rolling. You know, I did that 75 hard back in January to March, and there was a lot of days where I checked a box. Most. But there were some days where I got after it, you know, where you felt good, where you felt like pushing those limits, you know, and I know that if I didn't check those boxes before, I wouldn't have got to the point to where I had those days, those great days, you know. And so sometimes you have amazing days, sometimes you have shitty days, and most of the time you just have a day.
Yep.
You know, and it's just going through the motions. So I do like that advice of just be consistent. You know, it doesn't matter how intense it is. What about food wise? If somebody asks you about food, whether it's gaining weight or losing weight.
I think when it comes to food, everybody has kind of like this skewed perception of like what foods to eat or whatever, and that's usually, you know, you see anybody that's either in better shape or whatever, they're like, you know, what kind of foods you eat, or they think that you photosynthesize and breathe air, and that's all you need to survive. And the real, I guess, like kind of turnaround point is when people start to realize, okay, it's not just food and it tastes good, it's, you know, what contributes to building your body and what kind of fuel it is. Yeah. That's not to say that it can't be good. I mean, it's the first thing that throws me off when somebody says, oh, I eat for fuel, not for taste. And you kind of give them a side eye like, okay. Yeah. But like, I'm just going to use my sister, for example. She asked me, because she had me write her a program and some stuff. And she was like, well, you know, she's like, I'm tired, and towards the end of it, I just get really hungry towards the end. I said, okay, well, you know, what do your meals look like? And she's like, well, I've been eating a lot of salad. In my head, I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot of water and a lot of just, you know, carbs. You're not getting the, you know, the proteins needed to build muscle. You're not getting the fats to maintain your hormones and your other levels, which is probably, you know, throwing that off later in the day. Right. And you're probably not eating enough to adequately fuel yourself. So your body's saying, okay, I got to hold all this back because we're not getting the intake on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And it's not as difficult as people realize, because especially when calorie counting came out, everybody was really, really meticulous about it. They're like, okay, I can eat, you know, 9 chips of this and whatever, and it got really, really almost neurotic. But if you just, you know, keep track of, okay, I need about this much fat a day, whether that's, you know, butter, oil, whatever, about this much carbs, and that can be vegetables, that can be, I mean, obviously, you know, there are better carb sources, but that's down the road. And this much, you know, protein, again, whether that's chicken, beef, whatever. Yeah, and they'll get better at it as they go. Exactly. You don't have to be perfect. A couple weeks of being monotonous, you know. But after that, you know, you know, you get a good feel for it. I feel like after time, and there's a ton of apps that people can use. Oh yeah, it's technology has been, you know. They've really taken excuses out of everything. Oh yeah. You know, even if it's, you know, doing stuff in your living room, working out wise, and then then the MyFitnessPal will tell you what to eat, and then YouTube will tell you how to everything else. And
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
the information's
pretty
out
insane.
there for sure.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, do you have a favorite app?
The app that they use over at the Diet Doc, I used to use MyFitnessPal all the time. I really enjoy it. The only thing that I wasn't a huge fan of is whenever you would, because they just added a feature where you can, put in whatever volume or whatever for your exercises. And then it would say, okay, based on what you put in, you're burning about this much calories. So here's how you adjust it. But depending on how intense your workout is, that could vary by almost 1,000 calories.
Right.
And so it makes you, like what you eat a day, just kind of go, which is what I loved about when I went to the Diet Doc, is they said, okay, we're gonna have about this much food whether you work out or not. And in the event that, you have a really particular workout, then we'll adjust it just a little bit. And that's what helped keep it consistent.
Well, Justin, I appreciate you coming and sharing your story, and good luck with the rest of your journey. I'm sure it's, even though you're 5-6 years in, I'm sure it's still only just begun.
Yeah.
And remember, guys, if you guys want to share your story with us, reach out, message us on Instagram. We'll set up an interview with you. We'll get you in on the mornings. Again, thanks, and we'll see you around.
Anytime.